Perfect. All right. All right. Now we are good. So let's go ahead and go back to where I was. Bam. So, like I was saying, my goal is to give you clarity and confidence. And I like to do that in three areas that I know work really, really well because I've done them over and over and over. So, we're going to talk about that. Now, first, we've been so fortunate to have our clients and students that have won over right now and counting $252 million in exactly some of the main areas I'm going to share with you today. Okay. Over 252 million in government contracts. And I'm going to share with you what a lot of them have done today. All right. So these are a couple of our case studies with myself and some of our students. One of them, Bree, she's one of our favorite people, one of our favorite success stories. She was right here where you guys were, wanting to win her first contract, and she was able to win it by following the framework that I'm going to share with you in South Carolina. So, a little bit about me, I served in the Air Force, and I wanted a business that I could make money and I could leverage someone else to do it, the middleman. I didn't have the money for a large team. I started out doing a consignment boutique in Atlanta, Georgia, after I got out of the Air Force. And it was fun and it was cute, but it didn't give a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of, it wasn't a lot of profit. So that meant that I had to do all the work myself. Now I made a little bit of money while I was in there and it was fun and all that, but I never really, really got to the point where I could hire someone to come in and do the work. That's what I was focused on. I'd seen people retire horribly and I'd seen people retire well. I remember visiting my sister in Florida, and there was this couple that flew into Florida every now and then. They had a vehicle that stayed there and they had a condo that they didn't even have to rent out. And I remember thinking that it doesn't matter what you look as successful because everyone has their own idea of why they want to do something. You know why you want to be on this particular GovCon lunch and learn. There's some reason why you're here because our time is so valuable. So you have a reason why you want government contracts to work for you. For me, it was all about the freedom and making enough money where I could retire well, where I could pay off my mortgage or have a mortgage or put children through college. So, in other words, I specifically thought of six figures because you can do a lot with a six-figure business. And that means whether you're making 100,000 or you're making 700,000, that's six figures. So I knew that was what I wanted because I knew that would allow me to do a lot of things I wanted to do, which meant I could afford to have employees. I could afford to have subcontractors. I could afford to do the things I like to do. And government contracts allowed me to do that. So for whatever reason, you know why, that's what you want to focus on. So the problem was, and still is for a lot of people, it's hard to get those government contracts. It's hard. And the reason it's hard is because you don't know where to start. You're all everywhere. You don't know if you should start with the requirements, cage. Do you start with having 12 different NAICS codes? Would you hear? Have all the different NAICS codes? You don't know. Do you start with calling the government buyers? I didn't know. Okay, I'm in Florida at the time and I have a business, but I want to add government contracts to it because one of the reasons is government contracts had long term. That was what I was looking for. Most of my contracts would last maybe 30 days. It was hard to get a private contract that they didn't want to go month to month. And I knew that I wanted to depend on my revenue because if you've got a mortgage, you have children in college, you know what that feels like. You don't want the up and down. So I want continual revenue and then mix it with month to month. That's what I was looking for. So when I got started, I was in Florida and I would see these people on the side of the road and they'd be picking up the trash. And I was understanding what are they doing? And they were doing debris. So I started doing a little investigating. I found out there were local contracts, there were state, and there were federal. So I ended up getting a federal contract with a doing subcontracting. So my very first thing I did, because I didn't have any past performance for government, I didn't know what to do, is I did go and get out of my car and talk to them about, can I come work for you? And they said, would you like to be a sub? And I said, yes. Well, I'd sub for a little while, but I was ready for me to win a contract because you're only getting a little bit of that money and they've got other subcontractors. So if they have too much work, guess what? You don't get any. But if I control that contract, then I know. But I didn't know where to start and they weren't sharing that. I don't know if you've ever noticed that people hold that tight to the vest. So I was like, okay, do I do the CAPE statement? What do I put on the CAPE statement? Do I do a capability briefing? What is all that? Kept hearing about capability statement. Well, I didn't know what am I going to put on there? I haven't done anything. So I was really confused. And then I said, okay, maybe I'll talk to the individuals that have the contracts, but what am I going to say? How do you even get their attention when there's so many people vying for them? So I was all everywhere. I didn't know to start with what I was going to give them or the buyer. Do I try to build a team with subcontracting first? So I spent some months going around in a circle because that was the hardest part is to know where to start. So when I did that, I realized that there were a couple things that I wanted to make sure I understood. And let me go ahead and do submitting. There were a couple of things that I wanted to understand. And one of the main things I wanted to understand is I didn't want to waste my time, like I know you guys don't, trying to figure out what's going to be the best thing. So, like I said, one of the things you probably even hear now is that you should have as many NICS codes as you can. Throw as many as you can. That way they know that you can do it. And make a general website so that way you don't sound specific. I get a lot of people that'll come to me and it's like consulting. Um, very general. So it kind of makes it look like they can do everything. They don't want to miss out on anything. And I did all these things and I never got anywhere. I'd done a little subbing, but I never, ever, ever saw any traction. And then I start looking at what can I do? And so I start thinking about one thing. The one thing that I thought about was if I sound like I can do everything, it's going to seem like I can't do anything. Because I noticed that what did I like a lot about businesses that I would visit? It seemed like they were good at one or two things. They were really, really good at, and that made them really good at it. So they became an expert at it. So I start focusing on that. I said, you know what? I'm not going to go out, I'm going to go in. So the very first thing I started looking at was understanding that I had to understand what I was going to offer. And then once I figured out what I was going to offer, then I had to figure out who was going to buy what I had. Made sense to me. Then after I figured out that, what I'm going to share with you guys today is one of my favorite avenues. The avenue is one of the ways you're going to win the contract. That's a big one. Then I was able to figure out how do I get the government buyers to talk to me, whether it's a local, state, or federal. You have to be able to get them to talk to you. You have to be able to get them to respond to you, and you have to be able to get them to take you seriously. And then the last thing is, I knew I couldn't do it by myself. One of the things you do is you're going to probably be able to do one or two contracts by yourself, and you can burn yourself out. I was doing 4 at one time, and I was burning myself out because I was trying to keep all the money because I didn't have a big profit margin. I didn't know how to do it. So I wasn't bidding right in order to have enough profit in order to pay someone. So you end up doing all the work yourself and you're tired. And that's whether you're doing the supervising or the managing or the physical work. You can only do so much and be at so many places and supervise. So it was really, really, really hard. So I realized that I needed to increase my profit margin in order to build a team like I've seen other people doing. They have a team of 5 and they'd have a team of subcontractors and employees and all of that. And they seem to be doing really well. So I started looking at a framework that was making sense for me. It was really, really coming into play. And the framework helped me when it came to, okay, I kind of understand I need my offer, my buyer, my avenue, my relationship, and my team. That kind of made sense to me. But then I start thinking, okay, the framework may really, really work, but can I do it? Can I really put it that simple? 5 pieces. Will it really make a difference than when I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off? And those 5 pieces did. So when I really nailed down my offer and added value, I stopped selling and started solving the problem. When I really got to know my buyer and found out what things got me to know the buyer, I could speak to them in a language they knew I knew what I was talking about. And my buyer is the agency. So certain agencies I began to understand how to speak their language. And it's very important because the way you speak the Department of Defense is not the same way you speak the Homeland Security or Department of Justice. All of those are different. So I knew I need to figure out my buyer and understand their language. And my favorite was my avenue. So once I realized, which I'm going to share with you guys today, one of my favorite avenues is figuring out there's about seven or eight avenues to win a contract. And I focused on three, and I'm going to talk about that today. And then I realized how to build my relationships and my teaming. So when I was able to do all that, then my internal things that were like, okay, what are you going to have to offer that's going to stand out? Calm down. And my external things that were like, okay, it's going to be too much time. It's going to cost too much money. We all have those little voices that go out from it. Calmed down because I started to see the results. So whatever I was thinking, I knew this framework was going to work because I was calming down with what I was thinking I couldn't do. And I started seeing I could. And then all the other things, the external things are when people say, well, you really need more NACS codes because you're going to miss out on business. I don't know if you guys have heard that. If you don't have more NACS codes, then you're not going to get it because you're too specialized. I started realizing that wasn't true. It wasn't true at all. It was furthest from the truth. So when I started doing that and I focused, I was all in. I started making in 9 months, I started making my six figures and beyond, pow. And that's what I want to talk about. So it brought me a lot of freedom and it brought me a lot of options. So after I'd done that, I started having people ask me to teach them my OBART system. So my OBART stands for O for offer, B for buyer, A for your avenue on how you're going to win. In each GovCon, I give you a different avenue on how you're going to win. And then I may give you a little bit of information about the buyer. And I may talk about the offer and how to build relationships and how to do teaming. Each one of those you got to get great at. If you're not winning government contracts right now, one of these is not good. Either your offers scattered, and I mean offer from your starting with your cage code. Your cage codes, you have too many. I just had a client that had 15 cage code and had one hasn't won one contract, but had 15, but hasn't won one contract. And they do consulting, but it hadn't won one contract. So normally that's going to be it. Your offer is all about selling, 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 not solving, solving, solving. Your offer has to be about value and what can you do for that government buyer that's going to make them really want to work with you. And even if you're doing a $10,000 contract, you'd be surprised how you'll get that one and another and another and another. And you'll see some people, contracts just roll in because they figured out how to do the offer part, or they know how to talk to the buyer. Let's say they got the offer, but they don't know the buyer part, or their avenue isn't working for them. There is a set formula on where you should get started. Most people try to do proposals. They might try to do a source of stock. You've got to know the right avenue, or you can have the offer right in the buyer, but your avenue is never going to make you win, or it's going to take you the average 36 months because you're not doing the avenue right. Or the other thing is you don't know how to really build the relationship. So you don't know how to call them. You don't know what to say. You don't know what email to send. All that's important. And then you've got to really, really, really know how to team. And teaming is vendors and people that work with subcontracting. All of that is because you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. So the OBART system, I realized when I was able to get all of these pieces together, I started winning government contracts, and then I started doing joint ventures in the DC area. And this was my success. I started doing all kinds of government contracts, and I started doing all kinds of avenues that really, really work. So hopefully you'll stay to the end because I want to share with you a couple of things that are probably missing, and hopefully you can put these into play where you can win some government contracts, because I'm going to share that with you as we go through, and at the end you should be able to get it. So if you've been struggling like I was, then there's usually 5 reasons. One of the 5, your offer is not adding value. Your buyer, you're not connecting. Your avenue is not a good fit. Your relationships, you're not connecting, and you have no team. That's why you're struggling. It's one of these 5. I've never had anyone not win a contract, and I can figure out after a while what they're not doing. It takes me about that long to be able to figure out, okay, this is what's going on. That's why you're not winning. That's exactly what it is. So because of that, I was able to get over 25 different work with 25 different agencies. I've been doing this for the last 28 years. I actually am in the DC area. And this is just a couple of people that after we start working together, they were able to join me for conferences. This is me at conference. This is them, clients, students that are making the OBART system work. We say OBART and six figures beyond. Half of these people on here, if not more, have won government contracts. Now, the majority of my students are older, my clients. So it's like pulling teeth for them to do a lot of social media. But I always get them that might pop on the GovCon and say, Miss M, I just want a contract. So they're not the ones, and I'm not really into you telling everyone exactly how much money you want. I know some people, they don't mind, but I'm very particular at that because it's private for some people. But we have been able to get people one young lady won an $85 million contract, her and her partner, for over it was in North Carolina for transportation. And they used an avenue that we talk about as well. So we love doing a lot of training, doing our VIP training. And these are a lot of the young ladies I talked about in the red that won that contract for 85 million. And they had zero when they got started, zero, zero, zero. And so it definitely does make a difference when you know what you're doing. And so they kept putting in, changing the offer or changing the way they did with the buyer, but they would change a piece of those 5 pieces and then they would start to see the difference. Because like I said, if you're not winning a contract, is one of those 5. So once we start figuring that out, it makes it easier. And then that's where we're always like having a good time. And this is where we had our special black belt just about 2 months ago that came into the DC area. And we really got it in and we had a great time going to see if that OBART system really works. And they will be on Facebook telling you, yes, it does. Every one of the individuals that were there has won a contract. And it was I think it was in, what was it? April 18th. So this is for anyone that's tired of working a 9 to 5, government contracts. Have a business, but you're not making money, or you're doing private and you want to make more, or you really, really, really want to know what you can do. So just know that the average time frame for someone after you have their cage code is 18 to 36 months. And the reason is because they don't have a framework. They don't have one of those 5 pieces is not connecting. And so my big promise is to share with you that what that is. So this is the method I use that I like, and this is something that's specific for 2025. Now, starting June of 2025, next month, around the middle of the month, there's going to be a reorg that's going to be announced. GSA is going to be the primary buyer. That I know for a fact. Number 2, the other government agencies, you'll still be able to build relationships with them, but they will then be going over to GSA, and GSA will be doing the buying for them, as opposed to them buying in their own areas. There's going to be one central location for all the buying. And that's going to be good, and it can be great, and it can be bad, just depending on where you are in that framework. All right. So the fastest and best ways to win a government contract, when I talk about my avenue. So our A is for avenue. That's what we're talking about now. So let's be mindful of the time. You want to, and I usually, depending on which one I'm talking about, I would talk about your offer. Just know this. In order for you to really line up with an offer that's going to win you some money, you've got to be able to have an offer, not a product, not a service, but an offer. An offer means that you are going to transform whatever that problem is. It could be small, but that government buyer knows that you can solve it and that you're going to continue to solve it. That's why they want you. So whatever it is, and ours was one of ours, and we had several, but one of ours was our EEP program. So my Encore Enhanced program was the program that I created, my proprietary program that made my offer special already. I didn't go in saying I'd come in and clean your air ducts. I had a program that I did, so that I already packaged it differently. Then the next thing I did is I talked about what you're going to get in that program. So they were going to get an inspection. They were going to get us to clean the air ducts. We were then going to give a reading after we did it. We were then going to follow up with a report on things that they could do to reduce the allergens in the air. And that solved several problems. One, anyone knows indoor air quality is not really great. So if you can increase it by even 25%, that's going to help. Two, it's going to keep a lot of people who have allergens like myself and sinuses. It's going to reduce that. So it's going to give them cleaner air, which means they're going to probably have less people calling out. That's going to save money. With less people calling out, you're going to have more people working, which is going to save time. So we were able to package that where they understood from us solving a problem for them instead of us just trying to sell to them. So that's what I mean by spending time on your offer. That right there is what gets a lot of people a contract in 2 weeks and other people a contract in 3 years. That right there. Now, we spend a lot of time with our students going over their offer. I've gotten really, really, really great at looking at your offer and dissecting what you need to add, what you need to take away, how to create your proprietary name, how to do all these things, because that is what gets your foot in the door. Because if your offer is good, guess what? You're going to attract a buyer that's interested in what you have to offer. And once you know who your buyer is, then you're going to be able to easily figure out based on that agency how you want to win that contract. And then you're able to solidify the relationship because now they feel you can do the job. You win the contract. And most of the ways you can win is my favorite. We call no bidding. A no bidding can be a micro purchase, a simplified acquisition procedure, or it could be a sole source. It means that you don't have to bid on it. Now, there's different rules depending on the certain amount of money. Some bids are a couple of million. Justifications required. Some bids do not require any justifications. Normally, the ones are under 250,000. That's why I call that my sweet spot for selling or for solving, not selling. My sweet spot is 10K to 250. No bidding. Now, when you do your OBART the right way, you're able to do a lot of bids without any bidding. And then you could do no bidding and you can use the middleman. I use the middleman like there was no tomorrow. There's a certain way you have to use the middleman. You have to know what you can do, what they can do, what you're comfortable with, because ultimately that contract's in your name. So the middleman is really, really important. And then one of the things we did all the time was our asset rental model. And that is one of the three areas. And you can do the middleman with the no bidding. You could do the middleman. You can do the asset in DRC, which is disaster recovery. A lot of these asset rentals work well with the DRC, which is the disaster recovery. Now, we focus on federal and we focus on state because of FEMA and all the changes, which they'll probably get it together. They're always going to look at this administration is going to look more for the states to do education, to do their own DRC. So that is one of the things that's just going to maybe be a shift during this. But trust and believe there is going to be disaster relief contracts, whether they're state level and you really want to get down to the county level. And the reason why I know, because we're doing them. We have a team right now that's doing them in Tennessee, and we're getting ready for Florida. So we have people that are actually doing the work at this moment. In North Carolina, Tennessee, they're doing the work. So don't feel as if you're not doing it on a federal level, you can't do it. Because you can always team up with people. And that's a part of the OBART, teaming up with people that might not be in your area, but they may not be where you are, but they're where you want to work. And so they already have their businesses like we do. We're already established in Florida throughout, because I've been there 15 years. So I have property and I go back and forth. So my businesses are located there, also in the Washington, D.C. area. There's very few places that you don't have any disasters, just some places you have more. This right here is the model that I've used. This right here is a very simple model that you can incorporate the OBART into each one of these. So it works for any industry, and that allowed me, my framework allowed me to be able to create a great signature offer, nail down my buyer, select the right avenue, reach and build right relationships, and team up with other winners. And I use that for Veteran Affairs, GSA, Homeland Security. I did IDIQ, which is indefinite quantity, and those are pretty tough. Indefinite quantity, indefinite amount, time. I did it. They call and say, okay, we need this amount today, and it could change. We need this, So we did it on Capitol Hill where we did an IDIQ, and then you could end up doing BPAs, which are those large blanket purchase agreements. So there are a lot of ways you can do this, including with the avenue I'm going to share with you. And so I've been so fortunate and blessed to be able to do this for years and years and years. And I had other people ask me, Miss M, I love, 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 love how happy you seem when you are doing what you do. Can you please show me how to do that? And so here I am. So I love doing that on in person and I like doing it virtually. So I like for you guys to come and I can give you as much information I can. I say the high level. So now we're going to get into this particular asset model. So I'm going to give you the high level. The high level means that I'm giving your ideas that you can start thinking. The high level gives you the what you need to do. The eye level gives you the how. That's the tactics. Don't have time for that because there's different moving parts, but I will give you enough information to get you thinking. Now, if anyone wants to learn more, then by all means, at the end, I will give you a way, very simple way, where if you want to join me and our other students so you can get all the nitty gritty, we'll give you that. So, how to set up for success for this particular, whether you're doing anything, but we're going to talk about this particular avenue. Okay. So, let's say you already have a great offer. You already have a great signature offer. Let's just already say you have that. And then you already know who your buyer is. All right. Let's say you already have that. And then we're going to work on our A for Avenue because now I want to do certain rental. And depending on what I'm doing is going to depend on who my buyer is. That's the key. But you are going to have probably a very similar signature offer when you're offering this type of business model because you're doing a certain type of service that doesn't change. What changes, what you're offering changes, but the business model for your offer shouldn't change. All right. So we're not really going to go into relationships and teaming with this GovCon, but I am going to really get into the avenue. So we, of course, want to make sure you understand that I'm going to give you 6 things you're going to need. And that is a prerequisite regardless of what you're doing. And then I'll get into this and then we'll get ready to wrap up. So the prerequisite that anyone that's serious about doing anything with government is going to be the following. This is your basic, like basic credit. The first thing you're going to need is your website. And your website should be specific to what you're doing. Specific. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need your SBA profile. So you want to have your DSBA, that's what that is. Dynamic Small Business Search is an SBA profile. You want to make sure it's real specific. Keywords, I mean, I could spend a whole hour on just that. That's one of the most important things you can do. This helps with the no bidding process. Remember, I said there's about 3 ways that you can get selected for a no bid. No bid means no competitive bidding. That's why people love no bids. You don't have to bid. That's the beauty of it. So you want to make sure you have that. This is where a lot of people start with the no bidding process, finding you in your DSBS. And the other way they find you is through the vendor portal, DOGA or DOT, something like that. Okay. Once you know who your buyer is. Then, of course, if you know your buyers, you're going to speak intelligently to them through keywords and all of that. Then you want to make sure you have your elevator pitch. That's if you go to like we did when you saw us going to all these different events where we're being seen and heard. That's our elevator pitch. That should be able to get their attention. And that's your signature offer. But it's something you're going to say in that 30, 45 seconds that's going to make them stop if you say it the correct way. And so then the other thing you're going to have is your capability statement. And your capability statement should be specific for what you're looking at doing. If you're doing 3 different things, your capability statement you should have 3 different capability statements. Can't have capability statement that tries to sell waffles and chicken and tires and just doesn't work. It should be real specific. That's another mistake that people make. Take the time and have 3 of them. Like if you'd have 3 resumes. And the other thing you want to do is you make sure you have a really, 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 really great capability briefing because your whole goal is to go from your statement to your briefing to the contract. That's what you want. Now we have this whole little flow chart where we show if you haven't done this yet, you should do this, this, and this. It's very, very nice because it takes you from if you have no past performance, haven't won a contract, you have under $2,000 to your, to you available for credit, and you don't have a team. This is what you should start doing. Pretty much what I'm showing you, which is the no bidding avenue. All right. So let's get started. Okay. So there are 10 of my favorite asset models that I like. Now, the first thing you're going to have to do is understand the asset category. So my favorite are heavy equipment. I love the portable restrooms and the sanitation units. I love the storage containers and the pods. I love those. I've done the tents, the shelters, and the event infrastructure. I've done the medical equipment. I've done the rental car. I like the rental car. That's a good one. And I think that's about the only, those are the ones that I've done. And then we have other people that have done others, but those are the ones that I've done. Now, once you understand which asset category you think you want, all right, then your second thing you're going to want to do is you want to understand that someone else has that asset and you are going to be able to have that contract. And you're going to find that sweet spot between 25 or even 10K, under 10K, because 10K and under. So you can start with $1,000 up to 250. Now we know that our no bidding for micro perch right now, is 10K. We know that our simplified acquisition is supposed to go up right now. We'll just say at 250,000. I've seen people win a no bid with a sole source for 8 million. So it depends on. There are some up to 250 right now, no justifications required. I think they're raising the threshold, but we're going to go with 250 right now. So once we understand, then we need to understand the following. We know that we've got to find a vendor. So we know that. So let's say I want to do asset model heavy equipment or the portable toilets. Now I know I need to find a vendor. So there is a way that there's steps that you're going to find a vendor, but you're going to find your vendor. Okay, so find your vendor. And then what you want to do is one of my favorite that I love is what I call white label. A white label is when I can partner with someone that they will come up under me. And so it's like, for instance, if someone is making clothes for me in China, they'll put my label on it, but they manufacture it. The same concept when it comes to the white label renting agreement. And so what I can do is I can partner with some asset owners that can lease under my company. And that's what we call white label. We can do one of my favorites that I did to add more appeal to it was a drop-off site, an emergency site, a fast response. I added that. All right. You really want to make sure, and this is the most important part, one of them, you got to really dot your I's and cross your T's. There's legal paperwork. Now, we have a lawyer that drafted all ours, and that's what we use to draft our students and our clients that want. We have a template that we've gotten our lawyers that they do this. They check on it every month. So we have been so fortunate to have that we have a lawyer that's with our business and they help us with all our documents and you guys get the benefit of that. So you don't have to have a lawyer to make sure that all your documents, because you do want to make sure that you have your legal agreements together and they're very simple, but you do want to make sure you have your legal agreements together because you want to make sure that your agreement, they understand they're the vendor, they understand what kind of rental agreement you're going to do. This is part of what we teach on making sure you have all that together. So our students know what NAICS code is going under. I'll give you a couple of the NAICS codes. They know about the vendor, how to, we really get into how to find the vendors. We have some of the best vendors that we know that work in this. When you're doing car rentals, we know the best vendors for equipment. We know the best vendors for finding the portable. So you can see if you can build those relationships and find them, but that's one of the things we've already done because I love this model and this is the model that I use as well. And I know the people that have also. So once you understand what type of asset you want, and then you look at when it comes to the control and understanding the legality part of that, just that part, your agreement, that's the most important part. So it says what you're going to do, what the vendor's going to do, and then you make sure that in your agreement you have that you can lease or resell to the government that has to be in there when you're doing that. And then you want to make sure that you're positioned. So when I talk about positioning like I did, this is where you want to make sure that on your SAM.gov, on your DSBS. Now, some people, all they do is they have we provide government solutions. And what that means is, depending on which one they want, they may only want to focus, their avenue may be 3 of the rental models that they provide. So they can be real specific. Some people only want to do 1. Now, what if you're doing facility support services? Well, you could do facility support services and do the rental for the equipment that you would need during the disaster. So there's a way you connect the dots where you're doing facility support services in a rental model asset for heavy equipment. That's all you do. You don't own any of the equipment, but you've got a DRC contract, disaster recovery contract, based on that rental agreement that you're going to do for car rental. Happens all the time in Florida. Big money. I'm in Florida. I see it. Hurricane comes, you go to North Carolina, you get these cars, or you go somewhere now, you've got to have the agreement. You have to know the people. You have to have all that. They're not just going to give you the cars. So there's a part of things you have to do, and there's certain agencies that are going to rent to you more than others, especially when you have any experience. So all of that is taken into account when we come up with the training, and that's something you can learn if you like on your own. But I'm telling you, it's very, 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 very lucrative. And the reason I know is about, I think it was 1 or 2 GovCon lunch and learns we had. One of the young ladies joined, and she was a FEMA employee, and she called me, and she joined, and she said to me, "You're spot on. I worked for FEMA until 4 weeks ago. They did. She did some kind of. She was working for FEMA, and then she started taking those trips where you go and you stay on site. So she went to the training buildings, and she said that every one of those training buildings are leased by someone who did an asset model. They get the buildings, they come in there, they stay there for 8 weeks, they're on site, and then they go. And so she wanted to do this because she did it as a FEMA employee, and she sees it works. She's no longer a FEMA employee because that particular contract ended for her, and she doesn't want to stay out away from her home. She wants to be home. And it's hard to do that with that type of contract. But it definitely worked. And it worked for leasing. They just leased the training centers. And this one particular small business did it. So she knows it works. That's why she wants to do it. So you want a position, you need to be registered in SAM. You have to be registered with the appropriate NAICS code. So you have to have the NAICS code. So like if I was doing construction, it would be 532412. So you have to have, we got about 10 of those. So you have to make sure that the appropriate NAICS code corresponds with what you're trying to do as your rental model. And then your CAPE statement should definitely have, quick deployment or national vendor network or, 24-hour support, and list the categories that you're looking at doing on your CAPE statement if you have it done correctly. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you know where to find the bids, because the bids are in specific places. You can look on SAM. There's quite other places you can find, but you need to find the bid. And that's why I love that part. Some people, that's all they do is they find the opportunities for the vendor and the buyer. They get paid a percentage. So they become like that person. So they find the opportunity and they don't want any part of that. They just want to find the vendor and the person, and they put them together. So that's all they do is get a percentage of that. And that's what they do for their business. And they've created affiliate links, and that's what they do. I know this for a fact. So there's so many ways that this can work that work really, really well. And so there's GSA that you can, GSA is a big one. General Service Administration, and you don't have to be on the schedule. Everybody thinks you got to be on GSA schedule. No, you don't. GSA does the same thing like other people. They do micro purchases, and they're even going to be one of the biggest players. GSA, General Service Administration, is going to get real big because they're going to be the buyers for everything. So trust and believe that is going to be a big player. So you definitely want your keywords, your alerts. You want to really build that vendor relationship. That's where we talk about our R for relationship. You want to make sure you already have your way to reach out to them. So we have a template. You can create one yourself. We had a really nice template on what to say when you're reaching out to them to even make it interesting to them. And you'd be surprised how many people who have never heard of it. They've never even thought of that. And so, of course, you got to make sure that you have the right words, you have the right templates, you say the right things, you have the right information, the right agreement for them to even want to be interested. And then you want to be able to promote, you want to be able to hopefully be in a position where you can get that no bid and you don't really have to do a lot of bidding and a lot of quotes. That's the key. And I love the IDIQ. That's my favorite. You got to be okay to do it because, like I said, it changes. You might need 25 cars on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, you need 50, and on Thursday, you don't need any. So you do have to do it. I personally did an IDIQ for Capitol on Capitol Hill right here in Washington, D.C. We were doing IDIQ for several things. People, we did staffing. So they did a lot of the tourist areas. We'd go in and we service all the restrooms. So one day we need this amount of people. Saturday, Sunday we need more because it was weekend. So you had a lot of visitors. So that's one of the things I know I did IDIQ that was really, really fun. So you can do a lot of those, and a lot of those work real well with this asset model. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that you really focus on executing the contract. You want to start really, really small so you can build up your CPARs. That's your report. You want to make sure you start building your past performance because when you start doing this, you'll be the go-to person. So that's one of the reasons why I grew my business so quickly. I was the go-to person for staffing. I did some IDIQs, and then I also did some of the asset models that worked really well. All right. And I love the medical equipment as well. That was one of my favorite. So this model works very, very well. I love it. And I love the BPAs, the blanket purchase agreements. You want to do this with your sweet spot. And it all starts with that offer. You got to be able to solve the problem. And I love the words you want to make sure, quick deployment. If this really works well, this asset model works really, 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 really well, coupled with disaster recovery, really well. I can't think of one of the areas that because you can use it for vehicles, you can use it for laundromat, you can use it for the sanitation, you can use it for the pod or for the storage. So if you are in your state, so let's say you don't want to do any FEMA, but you want to do state, because think about it. If FEMA is not going to be in there doing the money and giving and taking, who do you think is going to do it? Your state. State's going to do it. State's going to have to pick up all that. And there's going to be, we work in North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida, DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. I have an actual staff of people, gentlemen that's really doing well, that just kind of like started working with us even more. And he is really doing well. They're there right now because they know where and what people need. So when the other people are gone, there's so much more still left to do if you know what you're doing. So hopefully you guys kind of come to the point where we're going to wrap up now, whatever you thought. So don't think that there's not a lot of opportunities out there. And don't think there's not going to be a lot of no bidding. Because like I said, the no bid is your micro purchase, your simplified acquisition, and your sole source. Those are all no bidding. And then you can use this asset model with the no bidding, and you do your OBART when you come up with a really compelling offer and you don't look like you're all everywhere and you look focused. You'll be surprised how many IDIQs and how many BPAs you will be looking at getting and how many past performances you're going to just rack up. Because this avenue is one of my favorite. So hopefully you understand where you are, why you want to do it, what's your experience, whatever story you've heard, no more government contracts, FEMA's all everywhere, whatever. Trust and believe people are making serious money. It's just they're making serious money in certain types of contracts, certain types of situations. That's the key. Always going to be money. You just got to figure out how they're doing it. Always going to be money in government. Do not ever believe it won't be. And so what I'd like to do is just have you start thinking of whatever you think you can't do, you can do it if it's done right. You can build those relationships. You can find those contracts. You can, I gave you some of the ideas that you can kind of think about. Like I said, I gave you the high level, not the eye level. So, but I did give you something that you can at least think about. So if you really, really, really want to learn more, and I can give you what we call the actual eye level, I have a workshop that is our GC state workshop with AI. And what that does is we have a 90-minute live, and I do two. So the first is our 90-minute live. Then we have another 90-minute live that we do on Facebook. And what this is I help you with the no bidding, finding a state contract, whether in the state that we do, and you're looking at doing some work with us if you have what you're looking for, or you can do the middleman AI. We show you how to do the AI that finds everything, all kinds of prime contractors. AI is one of our best friends. And then we show you specifically the asset rental model. You can use the asset rental model with the middleman, because you think about it, that's what it is. You're doing the brokerage. You can use the middleman with state contracts. You can use the teaming where you go to one of our locations and you don't have to be registered. The difference in a federal and a state, a federal FEMA contract, you can be in Tennessee, be registered in Tennessee and work in Florida because it's a federal bid. When you're doing a state bid, you have to be registered in that place. So we focus on where we're registered. These are where a lot of hurricanes are. Florida. We're not registered in Texas, but we're registered in Tennessee and all those other places. I think there's like six states that we are either registered or we have our team there that you guys can do work as well. All right. So focus on your state and what, because that's where it's going. It's not going to be so much federal. It's going to be a lot of state. And when you're doing state, you're still going to have a lot of those prime contractors that are going to need tents and all the same stuff that you need on a federal level, you're going to need. But you can do the asset rental. That's the great thing. You don't have to own any of it. My favorite is the rental model. My favorite. I when I was in Atlanta and I had my boutique, I would rent out the prom dresses, rent them out. I rented out at first, people would come to me and they would ask about the prom dresses. And I thought, I would buy them wholesale. I would rent them out and I would quadruple my money and I would rent them maybe the dresses 3 times and then I would just sell them. I made more money from rental than probably anything else I think I did. And I took the same concept with government. So that is what we offer, and it includes 2 weeks on our bid platform that specifically focuses on the asset type things as well. Small accountability group. We have our resource vault that kind of works like an app with templates and cheat sheets and everything. We have our on-demand training where you get full access. All of this will be this particular class starts on Monday, so our on-demand is always updated, and you have full access to that in lifetime. So that's any updates you get automatically. Live coaching, that's where the 90 minutes come in. So we do a live coaching with our expert team, either myself or one of my other coaches. And then we really get in the chat GPT that nails down your specific offer. It helps us really look at your offer. What are you offering? How are you offering it? Your scripts, locating contracts. All of this is a part of what you receive. And we've had fantastic testimonials through all that. And that is what we offer. And this is kind of like our workshops are pretty much valued $697 because we do those on our own. We do our 2-day workshop. We have a Facebook invite, 2 weeks access to this bid platform, but you're going to have your own access to bidding that you're going to have through AI. So it doesn't end. So you'll be able to keep doing that. And we also do the mindset part. So it comes up to quite a bit, over about $1,500. And what we do is we do this for $297. The next one starts on Monday, and it's normally priced, if it's available, at $497, and that is what we have. So the $297 is all about what I just showed you. We give you all the playbooks for the assets, the templates, what we already have for the legality part of it. What you won't need anything. You don't need to find out, no bidding. We help with your offer, your signature offer. We give you ideas for that, all of that. And so that's what we offer. And if anyone's interested, then here is the link. And you would just it starts on Monday. Monday, there's like, I think about 16 hours of somewhere around there, about 8 to 10 hours of PD of the training. That's your what we call on demand. So you go in there on Monday and you're all set up to get started. And then 297. Yes, sir. Yes, 297 offering today for the next hour. So that'll go until 2 o'clock. Here's the link if anyone's interested. Oh, yeah. I know the rental car art is one of my favorite. I did the rental car because I was born in the Midwest, so we had a lot of tornadoes and we had a lot of snowstorms. I love Four Seasons, so I was in Florida. I was in Florida for 15 years, and I went through every hurricane you can think of. And that's where I started doing all of this. I started doing this as one of my avenues. I started doing debris as one of my avenues because I realized that the avenue was where the money is. And I depended on where I was dependent on what avenue I could do. So I had to focus on a certain avenue when I didn't have that much money and I didn't have a team. So the rental car was my one of my favorite avenues, but so was the leasing of the training building. So was the laundromats, the local laundromats for people to wash. There were several that I did within the rental asset model. And AI is available and it's phenomenal. And I know you know that, Art, because you've been doing AI. So AI is one of my best friends, and that's what we do. So the way it looks is it starts on Monday. You would have access to the 10 hours of training that's on demand. You go in there, you have lifetime access to that. It does not expire. I give you almost a whole hour on crafting your signature offer. That's the most one of the most. So we get a lot into the nitty gritty of crafting that signature offer. That's going to be really appealing because we really want to get into the no bidding part. That's the key. You want to be able to get in there without having to do a lot of bidding. Yes, we're going to find where the contracts are as well, but the key is to learn how to go in there and how to do a lot of the signature offer is what attracts people where they have this opportunity on their desk. They don't put it on Sam, they don't put it anywhere, but based on what you do is will get you that your foot in the door for that. So there are a lot of ways to make money with the government if you switch out your avenue and you understand why. That's the key. So for 297 until 2 o'clock, it's one something now. We go over 10 of the asset models, and rental car is one of them. We go over 10 of them. So you got 10 to choose from. Okay. And then we work on our signature offer for each one of those. That's a part of your training. So I want to go to rental car. Boom, click. That's going to tell you all what you need for your rental car. Then we talk about what you need for your rental car for your CAPE statement, your website, your marketing stuff. Then we talk about what next code is going to fall under. Then we talk about who your buyer is going to be. We talk about real detail about your avenue because that's your avenue. Then we talk about what relationships you need to work on, what you need to say. And then we talk about what teams may be great if you're doing this. Every one of the 10 is broken down in this course because we never know which one's going to be a better fit for you. Then we go into how to partner with the middleman and how to do it with the disaster recovery contracts with the different ones. Some are going to really work well, like rental cars and things like that work well with disaster recovery. And you can do that in your state, or you can do it in one of the states that we're registered. Because I can't talk about any other state. You know, we're not registered in California, but we are registered in the one that I talked about. Now, will our team eventually get there? They may, not sure, but I know where we are right now. So that link right there would get you started on Monday. You would get access to sign in, and then you would work independently. And then we have in the month of June, we have our live 90 minutes is when I meet with you. And then I do a follow up after you've done this for a little while, like usually about 2 weeks. I do a follow up where I, kind of want to see where you are. Cause that's where we're kind of looking at. Are you getting the results? So that's why we kind of do a follow up. So the first one is 90 minutes. The second one, it might be 30 minutes, could be 60. But that's just to kind of follow up, tweak things, and all of you get on there. Okay. Any questions? Any questions at all? All right, then. Why? Let's see. I have a question. Let's see what the question could be. I don't have access to the courses I paid about through I sent email. And I don't know what courses you're talking about. What course you can put in there? What course are you talking about the DRC? Because all the courses we have a link where you can go straight in there. So if you're one of our students, our team is really, really good. So you can put your email right there and I will personally look at it right now. So I don't know. We have several courses. So when you say courses, you've got to be specific for me. Okay. So just put that in there. And then I can look for your name and we can find you and send you the link within 3 seconds. All right. Because we have a crack the gov code. We have that. Okay. So I'll look at that right now and we'll make sure that we see that you're one of our students. Do you know what course you were in? Was it disaster relief? Was it crack the gov code? Was it a workshop? You got to Okay, you're welcome. Can you just put in the chat which one it was? If you don't know, then we can look at you because we have a whole list of our students. Not sure. Okay, we'll find you. No worries. And this is my number. If you have any questions, I'll do a message to everyone if anyone has any questions. Oh, you're so welcome. That's our number to if you have any questions about anything before you would start. Hopefully, we'll see you guys on the other side making that money. Like I said, I've been doing government and it has given me a lifestyle that I am truly blessed. And I just went to Florida and stayed a whole week. And then I'm going to see my mom and I'm going on a cruise. So I get to take my computer with me. I've set it up where I'm able to do that. And I absolutely love it. It's one of the best things. Can one person start a subcontracting job? I did a subcontracting. Yeah. So one person can find subcontracting. You just put the pieces together. Post cleaning. Sure. Yeah. If you want to do the cleaning yourself, I mean, there's so many things you can do now with AI where you can find people, list it. So you can start, one person can do, I would say one person with AI can definitely do a high six-figure business, even if you don't want to do the work. Definitely. You just have to know how to do it. There's all areas of transportation that's needed. There's so many areas from fleet. When it comes to fleet, it could be cars, it could be trucks. So all of that is more of the detailed stuff. That's kind of like the nitty gritty. But I know that there's all kinds of transportation needed from doing the work, the debris removal. But I'm talking specifically for this with I like the asset because you don't have to do the work. See, I like something that gives me freedom and leverages me where I have time. That's what I look at for this particular model. I don't have to do any of the transportation. I just get the people that need it and the people that have it. That's what I love doing, putting it together. Now, if you want to go do the work, then you can. But I try to get you to think, let's use our mind and not our bodies. Because our bodies are only going to be able to get us so much. So we can leverage other people, they can do the work. We do the thinking and we let them do it. Some people love doing that, but you don't have to. Okay. So if there are no questions, I'm going to skidoo. And hopefully I see you guys as one of the students. I love, love, love teaching. I understand we have to do it depends on what it is. Some of them you have to do 25, some you have to do 50. But when you're doing the subcontracting, you can do 100% if it's up to 250. If it's up to 250, you can do 100%. You don't have to do any of it. If it's over 250, you would. And when you're doing the brokerage agreement, you don't have to do any of the work. You just bring in the people together. So if I have a fleet of cars and I have people that want to rent them with the government, I don't have to do any work. I'm just taking the deal and putting it together. The only part you're having to do with the middleman is depending on if it's over 250, then you have to do a certain amount. So I teach all that so you know the FAR and all the particulars. Okay? All right, then. Well, you guys have a great day. Thank you so much. Um, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Okay? Hope to see you on the other side. Take care. Bye bye. I'm new. Where do you think I should start? Vanetta. I think I pronounced it. This is our lowest level class to start because it shows you with getting if you don't even have your cage code, you can do this. That's what's so great. When you're doing state, you don't have to have your cage code. Federal, you do. State, you don't have to. So this is where I would start. This is our lowest entrance. This starts you at the very beginning. So we would love to see you there and get you started. I'll put the link in here again. So that way, if someone wants to join, this would be where I would start. That's why we do it at a price point we hope that is affordable, but you get the bang for your buck and it gets you thinking and it takes you into areas where you have a job or if you don't have money, that's where this is. You don't have money, you don't have access to capital. It's just you have children, that's where we are with this. That's why we do that. This is more putting things together instead of you doing the physical work. You're letting your information in your actual intellect do the work for you. So to me, this is a great place to start. Okay, you're welcome. So hopefully I'll see you guys And until next time, take care. And let's make that Monday. Let's make it, make it, make it. See you guys later. Bye bye.